Hello, 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 and welcome to ZSRs. And we have the Link to the Past Randomizer Crosskeys. Sorry, I'm doing 5 things at once.
It's alright, this just seems to be the moment when the restreamer is the busiest, so I can do intros from
you
here.
guys
I'm
can take it
Excalibur.
over. Thanks.
I'm half of the commentary team. My pal Clear Mouse is the other half of the commentary team. How are things over on the other side of the Atlantic this evening?
Oh, things are super. I am so excited to see this all Germany lineup. Hitsuyan versus Schulzer should be an excellent match.
Yeah, I'm not completely sure, but I think these might be the last 2 Germans in the bracket. So
Only the finest survive, right?
well, this is like the battle for the like Speed Gaming Germany sub tournament. Looks like we're getting started in about 20 seconds. Who do you think? Who's your pick for the race, Claire Mouse?
I have to go with the racer that has his own sprite in this game. That would be Hitsu.
You think that you got to do something right to get yourself in the game? And looks like we're getting split starts with the flute at the Sanctuary for Schulzer and a pod key at Link's house for Hitsu.
That flute should be really nice, assuming Schulzer makes his eventual way to Kakariko.
Well, and it's not going to happen just quite yet because he instead finds himself in bunny form on the pyramid. Not that you can tell, being that he's not a bunny, but whatever. And with that disappointing news, Schulzer will be joining Hitsu and starting at Link's house. And of course, with the Sanctuary at the pyramid, we get to have key-stealing shenanigans for the Hyrule Castle today. Hooray.
Yeah, it looks like nothing really useful here at the Witch's Hut. Hitsu is going to most likely Big Flipper back, check out that entrance where the useless fairy drop down is, and then get himself some more money.
And with the flute already in hand, Schulzer is beelining it straight to Kakariko, which I think makes a lot of sense from a strategic point of view, right? Like, there's no point in walking to Witch's Hut because you can fly over there in a second. So I would expect him not to get distracted by any sort of shenanigans until he gets his flute turned on. Though apparently Eastern Palace does not count as shenanigans. I missed what the drop down was at Useless Fairy, but we might see that in a bit from Schulzer. Did you catch it, Clearbus?
I did not. I was just going to wait 3 more seconds. Oh, that's right. It was Ganon.
No.
That's good
Unfortunately,
knowledge.
waiting 3 more seconds for him to walk out of Houlihan Room doesn't work.
Alright, Schulzer is making his way through Eastern. Doesn't look like he's picked up too many useful things. A boomerang might be nice. A full heart container, always kind of nice. Early safety.
It's a lot better than Hitsuyan's heart piece. Not even heart piece. Heart. What are the little hearts called that refill your health called? Triple. Because they're just hearts. The red boomerang actually is not inconsequentially useful in this early in a race either.
Maybe if Schulzer finds, I was going to say the bow, but finds a glove instead of Eastern. It's always really nice to see. I was going to say that if he ends up finding a Big Kitty Eastern and a bow, he could potentially kill Armos Knights.
Yeah, but not with the... I mean, I guess the boomerang's not getting any action there, but it's just, in the absence of a real weapon, lets you at least punch your way through the most things. Hitsuyan's going to be a little bit sad to see that flute, having already done the shenanigans to get up to Witch, but...
Yeah, it certainly hasn't lost really any time on Schulzer, though, because Schulzer didn't really beeline it to activate that flute, right? But I guess Hitsu will have lost a little bit of time just fairly early on because he picked flipper, which is fine.
Yeah.
But probably, in the grand scheme of things, probably won't end up mattering too much.
Yeah. No, it's 30 seconds or something advantage for Schulzer on that sequence of decisions. We'll see if Schulzer pays that back by one way or another. On the other hand, this Eastern Palace dip has gone stunningly well for Schulzer, with the glove and the Desert Big Key as actual wins, and the other stuff in there being sort of all nice to have. We'll see how excited Hitsu is about making that dip. I don't, off the top of my head, remember if he's a Never Eastern kind of guy. The real Tech Bandit, the Sanctuary is at the top of the pyramid, so that crack is the place you come out if you fall off of the Ganon fight. Hitsu chooses to go in, so that's...
This is very good news for Hitsu. Meanwhile, on Schulzer's side, in the library location, he found Spiral Cave. Chooses not to follow that extremely long connector. Certainly don't blame him.
Chooses not to follow that extremely long connector until he turns his darn flute on.
He finds the well, though, here in the magic backdrop.
Well behind the hammer, so... I'm
sure the hammer won't troll us, and appear like 2 hours later.
The hammer behind either behind the hammer or a whole bunch of shenanigans, which occasionally comes up. So what you really want to cheer for, chat, is the hammer in the well, because the shenanigans are funny.
We're going to start this race off with quite a bang.
So in the Real Tech Bandit, if you play standard mode, no, even that's not true. I think in entrance shuffle generally, the Sanctuary is part of the drop-down shuffles. And speaking of a bow, Schulzer might be a little bit sad, though he didn't wind up finding the Eastern Big Key, that he did the Eastern dip already.
In this case, because Hitsu also is dipping Eastern early, and he will also find that bow, it won't actually end up costing either runner in terms of time.
Yeah, they both get to feel slightly bad, but but it doesn't actually matter.
Right? Yeah, they probably just don't realize the other person also is feeling just as bad. Yeah. Oh no, Schulzer getting. Oh no, Schulzer! I don't know if I've seen that before. He actually got caged into the hair basement.
Oh no! I think his best out is to bomb himself to death. Okay, that works too. I'm
sure Schulzer was feeling even better after those Moldorm shenanigans.
Cage. We'll ask him about that later.
After seeing so many Moldorm antics, if you always fail to, they never fail to surprise you.
No, they're well designed. They're well designed little monsters, mini Moldorms. Did Hitsu have to reset this room?
Oh, actually, I was so busy watching Schulzer trying to get out of the cage that I did not end up seeing if Hitsu ended up resetting that room.
So that's Paradox Upper on Schulzer's screen, which is an interesting find, though again, Schulzer's like desperately resisting the urge to go into all these fun connectors until he turns on his flute. Now Hitsu making the choice to walk over here and check race game, which turns out to be nothing, but...
Yeah, I believe also Schulzer did the same thing earlier.
It's an interesting choice. It's not a big time save either way, but lots of runners will just put that off until such time as it's interesting. That's the mirror at
Schulzer, at the Kakariko Well location. That is one of the best items you could find early on.
And Schulzer hasn't found Ganon yet, so he was being all coy about that entrance. At some point, it's correct to just... I think after you found Ganon, at least can't in a useless fairy. It's correct to just sort of start throwing yourself in holes, but it doesn't. Oh, there we go. Now we can go into a connector.
We can go into connectors, but will he go into connectors? There is. He can always head north and explore what the Lost Woods have to offer.
Tsuyan choosing to use the restock room. Schulzer decided that his 6 bombs that he had on hand was enough. So, and in addition to all the other fun one-way things we found in Factory, here's Super Bunny Cave, which we now get to do the slightly faster way. In fact, substantially faster way with the mirror block deletion.
Deleting more blocks to end up finding. Oh my gosh! Wow, no more bunny shenanigans today. Finding a small shield, but most importantly, that moon pearl.
So, I forgot to let you say that your favorite thing was bunny shenanigans at the start of the race. I'm sorry, Claremos, but
yeah. Okay, so you just commentated cursed your co-commentator.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, you should feel that. That's right.
Schulzer finding that the Super Bunny Cave lets out just behind his house and flutes away with his shiny new toy. And I think I see some of the reason why Schulzer doesn't start with the fake flipper start.
Alright, has a little bit of trouble as you have alluded to, but ends up eventually getting it. He will end up finding Ganon here. Hitsu, meanwhile, expertly avoiding the hair basement cage.
Yeah, and then expertly avoiding this crystal switch 2 or 3 times. Win some, you lose some. Schulzer choosing not to do the Houlihan glitch at Useless Fairy Drop, and instead heading straight across North Hyrule, in part because this drop is available. It's just the bat, but, you know, it's one more entrance sort of to the left rather than straight down.
It looks like Hitsu is going to make his way further into Paradox Cave. I believe
Yeah.
Schulzer had not visited this on his first trip in.
No, he chose to do Super Bunny Cave instead of Paradox Cave, which is a choice that one can make. I would have thought that 7 was more than 2, but what do I know?
Hitsu picking up money and the flippers.
And given that the logic don't care about no money, it's nice that when the game has now put Zora in logic twice, it gives you the money to go pay the extortionist.
Yeah, certainly eventually once Hitsu actually activates that flute, he'll have a lot of good mobility and he can go visit Zora at his discretion. Yeah, hitting those Moldorms with the bow is really not an easy feat to do.
The wind up on the bow is way too many frames for it to feel nice in a lot of circumstances, especially against anything that moves unpredictably. Schulzer's choosing to spend his one key on the front door of Pod, which is a choice that you can make. It does mean that he misses out on some checks at the back this early, but saves some time. So it's a judgment call that he has made here. We'll see if Hitsu makes the opposite one. I think most runners would, with one key and the bow already in hand, choose not to do that yet.
Yeah, and I guess I don't remember the last time he ended up saving pudding, but I'm wondering if he's going to save scum this.
Heaps long time ago, because he fluted away from the Super Bunny. So.
Oh, that's right. Yes, you are absolutely right.
Oh, no hammer. It was a good point, Zelga. There's the second pod key for Hitsu. I don't think Schulzer found the money for that.
Schulzer has not picked up any money. outside of the 50 rupees, that was in the Hera basement, and then just kind of some, random 20s that were dropped. So certainly Hitsu is a very good money resource, ahead of Schulzer here. So he was actually able to uncover the Paradox Cave shop, buy himself an extra heart for some buffer in order to bomb jump over.
Is good game knowledge. Of course, he's going to get the mirror in a second, which could have saved him a bunch of shenanigans, but... our dead uncle.
Yeah, well, of course, the 20 rupees are just kind of bonus, right, in order to afford the bottle vendor to pick up his second pod key.
Slightly out of order as these things go. But it's nice for the runners that the Uncle Drop is at Aga 1, because it saves us from having to do Aga 1 outside of more exciting corner cases.
Picking up a map to Eastern, I guess once eventually we'll do a map check, we'll end up finding out if it's a crystal or pendant. Hitsu! Finding the myths! Oh my gosh, super early here in Chicken Hut.
So, there's a pod key number 3, by the way, on Schulzer's side. For Schulzer, pod key number 2, but interestingly, Schulzer, as soon as he got the mirror, was off to go do Super Bunny. Sorry, the mirror and the flute activated. And so... actually left behind the last 3 houses along the north side of Kakariko. And so he'll be by your bottle vendor item, mate. Did Schulzer leave behind the bottle vendor item?
He has not purchased it quite yet. I imagine, though, after getting kind of these 3 houses here in Kakariko, he will make his way to the bottle vendor. Although if he doesn't end up getting another pod key, it's probably not going to be the end of the world.
Math Turtle, it is occasionally required to do Aga 1 to open the entrance on top of the castle. That's a huge corner case, but it does occasionally come up. In this case, Hitsu picking up his 3rd pod key. Once he eventually goes back into pod, he'll be much more comfortable kind of going further. Schulzer looks like he remembered Bottle Vendor. Just in time, right? He hit the flute, fluted back to Kakariko. From Kakariko, which is a classic oopsie in my book. Hitsuyan getting the good news about Uncle.
Yeah, certainly Hitsu looks like he's been taking a bit more conservative route in terms of keeping a full supply of bombs. Probably just worried that he doesn't really have he does have a bow to work with, but certainly I guess he just wants to make sure that he has enough bombs to do what he wants.
Nice arrowing by Schulzer there against the mini Moldarks.
I imagine that Hitsu will eventually go back to Kakariko, and he will also do Super Bunny Cave as well. Looks like he just wants to make some more overworld checks here in the Light World.
So they can basically get back to Kakariko anytime they want now with the flute in hand, and so you might as well finish off this loop. I expect them probably to go at least as far as Sanctuary before calling that a day. I missed what connector got Schulzer to the floating island, but it's a good find. Was that one of the Paradox entrances? Paradox mid, okay. So Hitsu didn't check the Paradox exits. The lowest one would lock him out of Kakariko and mid, just because at the time he hadn't turned on his flute yet, and he wanted to go, and he hadn't finished Kakariko, so that's fair enough. but we'll see how long it takes him to get back to there.
Yeah, with that mirror, Schulzer is able to very efficiently explore both light and dark Death Mountain.
Yeah, in the floating island is the best possible thing to find up here, in terms of being able to clear out everything. And with the mitts in hand, doesn't even have to worry about leaving his portal on top of the mountain. And you can just drop down the middle, clear out the 4 light world entrances, and then use dark world access to get the dark world East Death Mountain.
Using traditional dark world access and Crosskeys?
I mean, traditional dark world access at 19 minutes.
This is certainly starting to look like a very friendly seat so far. Oh, Schulzer finds Hype Cave. Oh my gosh, starting out with the Cane of Samaria. Certainly a really nice actual weapon.
Yeah, they have basically all of the possible. They now can use all 3 of their limited resources meters: bombs, arrows, and magic. So still no permanent weapons, but at least at least lots of resources to spend.
Alright, Hitsu's giving us a couple more item checks in the back of Pod. Schulzer was not able to do in his first trip here. He finds a very nice Maya routing key. And some more money in the basement. You know, after getting all these 300 rupees, kind of makes you feel a little bit bad, you know, that you had to do Houlihan, and then you kind of figure out that, oh, I guess I didn't need to do Houlihan, but, you know, it's you don't really know these things until you start playing this game.
This is why the Houlihan start is sort of the conservative option nowadays, right? Because it's the low variance risk averse play, but with some reasonably high probability, you didn't need that stuff anyway. So, having checked all the rest of the entrances, Schulzer's going to follow through on this connector, which, as always, is the wrong way around.
Hitsu doing the hammer yum very efficiently. First try. You can see that he's using the boomerang to kind of try to figure out where his location is in the dark maze. Without a permanent weapon, and also without the Cane of Samaria, it's very difficult in order to figure out where you are in the maze.
Yeah, it's slightly obnoxious, this whole operation. The flames help a bit, but he might actually be lost in the maze at the moment. There we go. It's easy to get sort of off by one row or column in particular, in the dark maze. And Schulzer taking that connector and winding up on West Death Mountain, otherwise known as Best Death Mountain. There's actually more stuff over here, and it's often harder to get to. And finds this Spectacle Rock item entrance as one of his first goes.
Hitsu, deftly avoiding the Dodongos in that dark maze, ends up getting his bounty of a small Kita GT. And having gotten everything he could out of Pod, he is looking to go to the Maya area.
With
pretty good diversions.
Early Mit's flute, that's a good shout.
Meanwhile, Schulzer finds an alternative method to get to the Maya area.
His way is out of logic, though, because he bomb jumped across the top of Spectacle Rock. Hitsu choosing to pick up the heart container, it's only his 5th one, so fair enough.
Yeah, Dodongo's ended up taking, I think, 2 hearts or maybe 3 hearts in Dark Maze, so I'm sure he is just happy to see any health that he could find.
So with early Mit's flute, you gotta feel like there's something in the Maya area, right? Like,
yeah, like Turtle Rock. I can't wait to do Turtle Rock. At least they have Blue Mail. I was gonna say maybe you have 5 hearts, but at least Blue Mail can make it slightly nicer.
And the cane. No keys yet, so you can only get so far, but
Yeah, Hitsu unfortunately does not have the cane, so he probably won't want to make too much progress into Turtle Rock, whereas Schulzer, having found Hype Cape earlier, he has his option. So we did see that the traditional Meyer entrance is blocked by Ether. Neither runner, however, can open that because they don't have a sword.
It's kind of funny that Hitsu walked all the way around to mirror over to desert with Ether in hand and no bueno.
Yeah, actually, and also, sorry, like Hitsu actually hasn't visited Super Money Cave yet, so Hitsu actually does not have the pearl either.
Womp womp. He can shenanigans his way through that. Super Bunny shenanigans can happen here.
Yeah, speaking of Super Bunny shenanigans, we might see some right now.
Except off by a frame or two. You might as well check the Aga entrance while you're here, mate. That's right, Aga Nim. Schulzer doing things slightly faster, by which I mean not as a bunny, and showing us that it's Ice Rod, which is a nice little find. So eventually Hitsuyan will successfully do the Super Bunny glitch, hopefully. And
yeah, it's unfortunately really difficult to tell whether or not you've succeeded, because normally what happens is people would like slash a sword or like be able to use something, right? And Hitsu doesn't really have anything to use. But I'm really glad that he did end up doing it, because having that Ice Rod kind of like being locked here, yeah, it's certainly not convenient.
And Hitsuyan will probably wind up going up to Kiseth Mountain this way. So Schulzer found this is the Turtle Rock escape exit, and was like, I did this already. But this is actually Hitsuyan now sort of reconverging with what Schulzer's already done. And the Spectral Rock escape exit entrance is the Turtle Rock right, or Desert Right, which is the least useful exit in the game. There's always a connector there just to make you feel bad. And Hitsuyan finding best bomb shop, the one that gives you more bombs forever.
Yeah, meanwhile, Schulzer has found the front of Turtle Rock with the Cane of Samurai in hand. He can make some progress here. No Fire Rod to do right side, but he can at least get through that Poke Room and visit some Chain Chomps if he wants to.
If that would.
I don't really blame him. He doesn't really have like a good weapon to kind of kill that Poke. So, oh no, he also doesn't have a small key to Turtle Rock, so he can't go further.
Yeah, it's hard and it's wrong, which is a good combination. That apparently wasn't Old Man Rescue Cave, so Schultz's not interested. I have his audio going and I didn't hear bats, so... Alpha Omega, they do have a tracker for the entrances. In fact, I also have a tracker for the entrances open, which I'm attempting to keep up to date. There are a variety of them available. Unfortunately, the best one is both Windows only, so I can't use it, and not actually publicly available. But almost everyone uses some sort of tracker, either a graphical tracker of some kind, or a couple of the runners just use a notepad. So Andy famously actually just uses a spreadsheet with notes on it. And then there are a couple of runners that are crazy and just try to remember it.
Hitsu remembering to check the checkerboard entrance cave, definitely avoiding that murder dactyl.
So Hitsuyan has so far carefully avoided finding Moon Pearl, which is with the gloves and the flute and the flips, he might be a while landing the Moon Pearl.
Yeah, he definitely needs to make his way back to Kakariko in this case, but yeah, this definitely with how much progression he's already found, it's seemingly unlikely that that's going to be his next option, because he has a lot probably better things to do with his time.
That's incoherent. That's fair. Duncan's tracker came out since I was last mad at my tracker. Yeah, it's web-based, so.
I will say that for specifically entrance, because the game doesn't really have like a good way to track entrances, you know, using an external map tracker certainly could be very beneficial for you. But just in terms if you just do regular key sanity, you probably don't really need another tracker. I mean, certainly could be a great quality of life improvement, but not necessary.
Yeah, I can totally understand not using an item tracker, and yet almost everybody seems to. I guess because it's, you know, marginally faster than opening your pause menu, but
yeah. Plus, I'm sure the interface of a lot of these trackers is much nicer, and you know, easier to figure out which keys you have instead of I guess like looking at the pause screen and then trying to figure out what all the different dungeon keys are.
For key sanity, I think that the item tracker is quite helpful, just because key sanity has, you know, what, twice as many things to track as item tracker, roughly.
All right, Schulzer ended up picking up the Cane of Berna in his, I think it was the Pyramid Fairy content. So when and if he finds Laser Bridge, that will actually be in logic.
All right. I mean, having an item tracker helps you plan your quick swaps too. The speed at which some people can quick swap is one of the things that impresses me about high-level entrance runners. Is, you know, knowing exactly how many items away the thing is that they need at all times.
Yeah, just like menuing is a skill, quick swapping is also a skill. It's just a different skill.
Yeah, I can successfully use quick swap up to about, I don't know, 6 items in my inventory before it starts getting a bit rough.
Yeah, probably the most common use of quick swap is just going from like the bow to the mirror.
Yeah.
Of course, sometimes, you know, that's one of the dangers of quick swap, right? It's like, you know, for example, you're trying to find Armos, and you quick swap, and you really hope that the first thing that when you hit Y, you're on the bow and not the mirror.
Yeah. So yes, Terry, I live on an apartment on a major street, and so sometimes there's traffic. I apologize. So this is yeah, and so the other nice thing about map trackers, as Zelga's pointing out in chat, is that if you have one that's integrated with your item tracker, it tells you when you're too dumb to remember where things are. So remember earlier I mentioned that the hammer could be in the well? That might be getting paid right here, because Schulzer is about to check the well the Mitz mirror way, which...
Yeah, and having no hammer, as he said, there is no need to keep that portal because he cannot do hammer fights.
Yeah, they're just sad pegs at the moment. Hair map, $20. Nope.
We had
Nothing.
5 shots for that to be the hammer.
Or just like anything interesting.
Yeah.
Was that? It was a 0 to 10 freaking well right there. Take that off the tracker. And while you're here, you might as well follow another connector you haven't done yet.
Yeah, I'm
now
sure
with
Schulzer. Yeah, sorry. Go ahead.
now with slightly less tedium on account of he has a bow, so the Spiral Cave was slightly less trolly. First time Schulzer came through here, he had basically nothing. So nothing 3 hearts. Spiral Cave was actually pretty hard.
I do think that AA was on record as saying that if you only have 3 hearts, it is not required for you to go through Spiral Cave because you could just die very easily to those mini world arms.
On the other hand, Spiral Cave takes him somewhere cool, which is to say shopping mall, which is 6 entrance tracks that are otherwise the right pain in the butt to get to. Shopping mall so called because historically, by the time you finally got over here, the only thing that was here was shops. On the other hand, these are real things.
Yeah, finding Schulzer has found, I think, all of the 5-item caves at this point.
Certainly most of them.
Alright, another pod key. I think I saw a Turtle Rock small key and the shovel. That is his bounty. Alright, meanwhile, it looks like Hitsu is going to make some more progress into Turtle Rock. Still no permanent weapon
Lynn, you're
for
a
these
troll.
guys.
And it turns out both runners are using MSU packs today, so you were getting non-vanilla music anyway. Schulzer finding the bottom of Paradox Cave over here, which means we could have been over here a while ago. And also Hookshot Cave. Means that not only have they found not only have they found a lot of the item caves, I think that is in fact all of the 5-item caves, but also a lot of the good connectors, good items that open entrances. This is a pretty open, as far as Crosskeys seeds go. They have a lot of access to a lot of things a lot of early. Hitsuyan still hasn't found, partly because of that, still hasn't found the Moon Pearl, which is a big problem for him in the medium term.
Hitsu doing a very excellent job clearing that room of Stalfos heads and the Pokey with just using the bow and the King of Samaria. Getting silvers for his reward. I'm sure he's very happy to see that.
Yeah, I mean, silvers are just a good weapon to have, right? Save you a lot of arrows. And with the Moon Pearl, Schulzer now has turned the Sanctuary from a useless starting place, actually a pretty great starting place. Right? You get East Dark World access plus these 3 checks on the top of the pyramid. Not entirely sure why Schulzer's a right side mirror and not a left side mirror there, but shrug. Sorry, these 2 entrances on top of the castle. Mirror into the Super Bunny, Tetsu, hooray! And Schulzer actually hasn't checked Castle Main yet, so he's going to do that while he's here.
Alright, Hitsu is here in Super Money. I am glad that he is going to pick up his Moon Pearl.
Yeah, incoherent. When they put the darn sign in front of the left side pyramid mirror spot, I was like, people actually use that. Schulzer finding $300, which Hitsu saw earlier at the thief drop at the castle, and not interested. Tanarin, everything, everywhere. They have a lot of stuff for 40 minutes in. The thing that was the most easy to miss that they both have was one of the gloves was in Eastern, which is a place that people often don't dip. And with the Mitz, Mirror, Flute, they both did a bunch of Mitz stuff really fast and haven't found anything particularly interesting yet. Which is, I mean, that's rando, I guess. Things don't always lead to stuff, right?
Yeah, and so far, even though our runners have had lots of progression, there actually has been quite a bit of divergence. Right, we see Hitsu here in Skull Woods, whereas Schulzer is visiting the pod area. And Schulzer actually ended up finding the Moon Pearl in Super Bunny Game a bit earlier, so he was actually able to make some more checks that Hitsuyan hasn't.
Yeah, I think that Schultzer's ahead on raw checks just because of some mirror efficiency. Hitsu did Moon Pearl-less immediately go to the Mire area, which I thought was interesting. Tenor and Ice Rod was in what is usually the Vanilla Aghanim entrance. Vanilla Agina entrance. And they both found it like within 5 seconds of each other for extra comedy goodness.
Yes, and in fact, Hitsu got to the Maya area in Logic using the Flute and Mitz. Schulzer ended up finding it out of Logic at the time connector.
I mean, he had Flute Mitz already, so it was like...
right. It's just that like the connector he took wasn't in Logic.
Yeah, he presumably came out of the connector and was like, well, I was going to do this anyway, I guess I'll do it now.
Yeah, I believe Hitsu here does not have the Skull Woods Big Key that Schulzer found earlier, so he won't be able to check the big chest when he's here.
Interesting. Obviously a slight difference in prioritization from the runners, where Hitsuyan is going Skull Woods without the big key, whereas Schulzer has it and he's still not interested.
Alright, so no Fire Rod for Hitsu means that he can't actually check the back of the Skull Woods entrance.
That's a good find. He figures out what the third entrance is on top of the castle, which was Desert Middle, which will save him a walk later, probably, but is a lockout for now, because he doesn't actually have a way to get back in that door.
Yeah, so it's certainly really nice to find the other side, though, because when he was up on top of the castle, because he knew in advance he had to leave that exit behind. So yeah. It's really kind of, I'm sure it's very comforting for him to see that, oh, okay, like, I know what that third exit is. I don't have to go back and check it later.
Well, and the fact that it's a useful connector, I mean, Desert's a slow connector, but it can still be a time saver compared to some other choices, though, with the Flute already, maybe not.
Yeah, speaking of slow, where are these boots? We've got the mirror, we've got flippers, we want some more mobility here.
I mean, emotionally, sure, but the Duck Express is at least as fast as the boots.
I beg to differ when they have to go to Spiral Cave.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, Hitsu has found the contents of the Kingdom's Cave.
So, Tenorin, it is always possible in Tournament Seeds to get all the items. It's just that you don't necessarily need to get all the items before you get to Ganon.
Hitsu in Agina's Cave has found a small key to Hyrule Castle. I believe at least one of the runners have found Hyrule Castle.
Yes, Schulzer found it. He also found Skullwood's back, and then found in Skullwood's back the Fire Rod.
Well, that is a Crosskeys specific, because you cannot have that in non-entrance.
Yep. And that's actually where it's worth mentioning. You can also get to all of the entrances in an entrance seed, unless there are some corner cases where that's not true, but they don't come up very much. They require some pretty bad connector loops in order to happen.
Yeah, so I actually like this the sync here. So Hitsu actually just checked the entrance of Graveyard Ledge. Meanwhile, Schulzer has actually found the inside of Graveyard Ledge.
And Schulzer following his mitts and flips to the Ice Palace entrance, which is I think an entrance that usually would get put off. I mean, it usually gets put off because you don't find the freaking mitts. But with all the stuff that he's got in hand, feels like now is the time. And of course, it's nothing. So, shrug.
Yeah, kind of as you've seen from both Hitsu and Schulzer's side, the mirroring back from Dark World to Light World sometimes is not all that familiar because once you get into the Dark World, sometimes you just don't normally mirror back. So that ends up getting mirror blocking a lot. And I believe actually we did see half magic on Hylia Island, so whenever they kind of get into this area of the Dark World, I'm sure it'll be a very convenient pickup.
Super Brotendo, there are occasionally so there's lots of other non-Link to the Past rando stuff. I know this because it's annoyingly not Link to the Past when I want to watch Link to the Past. And occasionally there are vanilla speedrun tournaments. There was one a while ago. Did Schulzer just... Oh no, he mirrored to the front door. That's a thing you can do.
Yeah, a quick swap plus mirror is a super fast way of getting out of sync.
Assuming you count correctly. And Schulzer actually going back up to the top of the pyramid to go in this door with his cape. So Hitsuyan having trouble with the fast guards. And the long wind up on the bow.
Hitsu is in the Village of Outcasts, going to retrace some of Schulzer's stuff here. Without really any additional gear that Schulzer didn't have, he most notably the hammer. He is most likely also just going to lose his mirror portal when he goes and visits the well. But of course, not before a detour into Hyrule Castle itself.
With the sewer's key in hand, happy to go do all this stuff. And I made a mistake earlier. I missed the blind side, which Schulzer has not found.
Smokey, I did not see what Smokey that was.
And while Delilah is busy defending all the other stuff we have on this channel, I should mention that our helpful volunteers, Delilah's our restreamer tonight, keeping the stream going, and apparently giving away gift subs. So thanks, Delilah. And then Terry and Liberal are our trackers. They are both charming and competent young... I don't know if they're young. Charming and competent people.
Yeah, tracking Crosskeys is certainly not an easy feat, so thank you so much for our wonderful trackers and restreamer. Schulzer, here, finding Myershed, has found a small key to Swamp Palace.
A small key to Swamp Palace.
The small key, thank you.
The one and only precious small key to Swamp Palace.
One of the few small keys that's actually more worthwhile than the big key.
Hey, look, it's a big key to this dungeon. It gives you a rupee. Womp, womp. The bomb shop telling us that we need to do Ice and Thieves today. And as mentioned, Schulzer is interested in this half magic. Looks like he's going to flute away.
Given that Schulzer has both Fire Rod and Ice Rod, picking up the half magic is going to be... It's almost essentially a permanent weapon. He has lots of magic consumables at that point. It's trying to make his way here to Dark Cross. Still no real permanent weapon, so he's going to put that Red Boomerang to good use. Alright, meanwhile, Schulzer, Fire Rod in hand, he is going to, after checking Skullwoods proper, most likely will also try and venture his way towards the back and check the Skullwoods entrance.
When runners sort of sit on the Fire Rod or something as they enter Skullwoods, I'm always like, they're trying to remember to do the thing. Super Brotendo, please don't argue with our volunteers. If we showed nothing but people doing speedrun attempts all day, nobody would watch. So if you want to see that, go watch those people. There are speedrun races, and then there are rando races. People like rando, so we have it.
Kudos to Hitsu here, making his way through the rest of the back and into the back of his gate. Hopefully this will be good for him. Oh my gosh, what a payoff! Finding the boots!
There's a good reason to go all the way through the back of Escape. I don't remember where Hitsu picked up the sewer's small key to know if Schulzer will be back there in reasonably short order.
Hitsu here in the well is going to find his disappointment, but at least he'll find his disappointment quickly.
I don't know how many seconds, how many frames the boots save in the well. Sank drop is at Pyramid, Wolfie. Which is why Hitsu did back of Escape from the front.
Technically, I believe we still need a lamp for that trip, but lamp at this point for these runners is just merely a suggestion.
I think that in Crosskeys generally, lamp is merely a suggestion, because it locks enough places, but they're all sort of inconveniently spread around the world, that you should keep in mind that you haven't found the lamp, but you should not wait to find a lamp. Both in my opinion and I think in the runner's opinion.
Yes, certainly. At least on Schulzer's side, because he has a fire rod, he already has a fire source, so he 100% is just going to take the lamp as a convenience item. Hitsu, on the other hand, does not know where the fire rod is, so for all he knows, that the lamp is his required fire source to get, let's say, into the back of desert.
Yeah.
I'm sure once Hitsu eventually finds these down, he will have a slightly nicer trip here. Schulzer having no boots, will need to walk everywhere. Unfortunately, neither runner still has a sword. Boots aren't as useful without the sword, but at least you can still dash some.
Underneath the bushes, you'll get a headache. Nice Village Webcast dash threats there from Hitsu. That's some grade A Usain bolting right there. Alright, let's see if this is the thing that our early mitts led to. The boots are pretty big for Hitsu. He was definitely behind. The boots will help.
Is this our fifth pot small key at this point?
So on the tracker, that's the fourth one for Hitsuyan, but I'm pretty sure you're right. That's the commentator's fifth one. And remembers where the Smiths are, and remembers
that's super convenient.
and remembers how to mirror there and not screw it up. And speaking of pod smalls, I get the feeling something is back there.
So perhaps in the vanilla big key location?
Yeah, it's like when the first six small keys that fall into your lap, and I mean not quite literally, but close, in the entire race are pod smalls. You're like, maybe I should go back there.
Maybe Pod has something. Unfortunately, no big key yet, as far as I can tell, and no hammer specifically in order to get back and beat Helma.
Burn a strats on blind with half magic. Just stand around and.
Is it really a strat at this point? If you just kind of stand around and activate that cane?
I mean, you could, in principle, screw it up. I mean, I feel like that was slightly slower than it could have been. I don't know what he did wrong. if he like stood in the wrong spot for when the little loopy loop went around when the lens iframes ran out, but I mean, still worked.
Yeah. Meanwhile, Schulzer at 53 minutes and 40-ish seconds has picked up their both runners' first crystal.
You could use the other cane, Futon. That is a thing you can do. And in fact, I've seen some people do remarkably good Cane of Samaria blind fights. Hitsuyan doing the sort of standard South Dark and Light World mirror sweep that is one of the things that Schulzer hasn't done yet. So we'll see if anything good turns up along here. And while he's at it, taking the purple chest along. It's not nearly as purple as Hitsuyan is, but details.
That Turtle Rock small key pickup, though, is something that Schulzer is not going to be able to get without the boots. Or, I mean, certainly hookshot, but we have not seen anywhere close to being a hookshot.
And Hitsu trying to find something somewhere that has something to do with these nets. Looks like Hitsu's doing the leave the chest behind trick, which is
inspired by great programming.
So
That's a really nice dodge there by Hitsu.
Yes, Master Sword is hard required in order to beat the game. Yeah. Unless it's swordless, which is not. Schulzer finding the mire just north of the village of Outcast. Not interested in going in there just yet because he doesn't have boots, and so he can't. I think wouldn't be interested anyway, but.
According to our awesome tracker, I believe it's Woodbro who's tracking Schulzer. It looks like Schulzer has a Mire small key and a Mire big key, coupled with the Cane of Samaria and a bow. He could make some pretty good progress. Of course, he doesn't have a lamp, which means that technically the trees isn't a logic, really.
He also doesn't have either the boots or the hookshot.
Oh yes, right. Yeah, right. So once he gets entry, he could potentially want to go in and do something.
Hitsuyan, speaking of which, finds the lamp in the flooded items spot, which it seems like it would be bad for your lamp, but details. And finds Desert right inside the swamp entrance with the boots. And both, this is faster. And I answered you, Lynn. I said you were a troll. I'm going to say you're a troll again.
Hitsu, with the boots on feet, is going to have a much faster time here in Desert, taking advantage of dashing these extremely long hallways.
Yeah, I mean, this is one of those feels-good boots moments, right? Like you get to dash way more than one screen at a time. Schulzer attempting to fire rod some murder-dactyls. Everybody should know that the correct weapon for murder-dactyls is a sign, because this game is silly. The fact that a sign is one of the most deadly weapons in Hyrule is baffling to me.
Alright, looks like Hitsu is going to leave his mirror portal there, and maybe just explore what is here in the mini Moldrum location. Got his big key to Mire, and does not look like he wants to continue the Dark Road, at least so far. Or maybe he's just going to go right back. speaking of finding a bunch of pod small keys, and just kind of like falling right into your lap, Schulzer is back in pod.
I mean, you know, a lot of pod small keys have turned up when runners are like, you know what? Let's check the big key chest first on this trip. And it has a sword.
That's quite the progression to pick up there.
I mean, that gets them into Missouri Mire. It's like that's actually a progression item right now. Hilariously.
That's right. You know, as you said, like 45 minutes or something ago, you know, both runners made their way into the mire area, and have the requisite ether medallion, but does not have a sword to actually activate it.
Now they can do magic, because everybody knows you need a sword to do magic. Oh, Schulzer. Womp, womp. Alright. Dodge the Helmosaur, yeah!
Yeah, I think at this point Hitsu has mostly retraced Schulzer's steps in this area.
Yeah, he's got a couple more.
He is going to be able to, in this case, check the Bonk illusions both in the light and dark world.
He should already know that the Light World Bonk Rocks here are the exit to Super Bunny Cave. And without the cape in hand that Schulzer found, he cannot follow Bumper Cave, and I'm pretty sure they haven't found the other end of Bumper Cave yet. Let's see if my tracker agrees with me. My tracker agrees with me, but I might have missed it.
Schulzer, not having a lamp, is going to attempt to go through the dark maze here in pod without in the dark. However, given that he has a sword, his path will be slightly more illuminated.
And as we all know, swords, in addition to good magic, also glow in the dark.
Now, I can't remember if Hitsu ended up seeing what was on Floating Island, but given that he is in the dark world here and is going to be able to make this check real quick, I'm sure he'll pick up with the half matches just like Schulzer did.
Yeah, I mean, you might as well. Nenoha. The sword was in the pod big key chest, aka the last one you check in pod. I think it would be totally hilarious if all those pod smalls were in logic to get you the sword. So that you could go like open mire entrance.
That would be quite the sense of humor from the game.
Hitsuyan also finding the fire rod in Skullwood's back, a place it does not usually appear.
According to Hitsu's tracker, it looks like he does have a small key to Skullwood, so I am curious if he is interested in finishing it.
That's a fair point. It is a bit.
Oh, he doesn't have a sword yet. That's right. Okay. He still needs to cut the curtain. Schulzer, yes, on the other hand, should be able to have this option, except he does not have a Skullwood small key. Man, I guess okay. So between our runners, they can finish Skullwoods.
Yeah. I mean, one of the issues with this being, in terms of commentary or evaluating who's winning, etc., is that this seed gave them access to so many entrances so quickly early on that they're going to be doing different stuff for a long time. Just because there's a bunch of relatively natural ways to clear the seed. But they got flips and 2 gloves and the flute and the moon pearl. At least all that stuff, and the bow, and the mirror in Sphere 0. So this has been a really open seed logically. Hitsu getting owned by the mini Boldarms, which I'm not entirely sure what was going on there.
He tried to do some bomb strats, they weren't really going to cooperate, so the Hitsu says, you know what, I have a fire rod, half magic. Schulzer did make a visit to Catfish here before checking the waterfall ferry location. Chose not to pick up the heart container that was dropped.
Doesn't think he needs to spend 6 seconds on a heart container. All right, everybody, keep an eye out. If Schulzer gets down to a low enough heart health total at any point for the rest of the seed that he has to slow down and play careful, he should have picked up that heart container. Yes, Unruh, they were in the back of escape, which you have to do from the front. The dude Garcia, these guys will do it in about 2 hours. If the seed is really trolly, it'll be about 2:25, 2:30. In that sort of time frame, they can do basically everything. Actor Pat, I will get to you as I go. For your first attempt, you will need way more than 2.5 hours. So, Actor Pat, yes, this is a particularly randomized version of Rando. This is what's called Crosskeys. There's a preset, but it means that both the entrances and the items are shuffled. A bot rolls up the seed. You can in fact download the source code for how this works from GitHub. The seed is logically completable with some rules, and we see which one of them goes faster. Because we are a fair ways into this tournament, this is a best of 3 series now. This is game 1 of these guys' series. And this is a all-German duel between Hitsuyan and Schulzer.
Alright, Hitsu, clearing out Desert Palace, picking up his first crystal, using silvers and to put himself on the map. Meanwhile, we did see that Schulzer went back to visit the Mystery Mire area with Sword in Hand, activated Ether to open up the Mystery Mire vanilla entrance, and found a Mire small key.
So I feel like they got those myths super early, in like as mentioned, Sphere 0 myths, and then the myths haven't really led to maybe I've missed a key or something that was logically required, but I feel like they've sort of just been bait.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember. I mean, so like the myths gave them access to the Mire area. I'm just trying to remember what was notable over there that they found.
That's fair. Yeah, there was actually a fair chunk of stuff, not all of which is so there was bits of Turtle Rock in there, for instance, so it's going to be hard to say. Sorry, go ahead.
I don't know, I was just going to say Schulzer is making his way, basically using Desert Palace as his set of connectors that he's been traversing through. Unfortunately, still does not have those boots. So we'll just he will just continue to walk through the desert with a red cane in hand.
So miserable. On the other hand, presumably slightly faster than walking their overworld, but it can't be that much faster. Like it's like 5 screens. Dude Garcia, we actually had a chat about that earlier in the stream, but there are several different software solutions for tracking where all the entrances are. Or you can just use a notepad, actually, which is not horrible. It's not so bad. So I'm mostly keeping up tracking their maps using software while commentating and watching 2 streams at once. And so for the runners, if you're running it yourself, it's actually totally fine. You have enough seconds in your day to successfully mark off entrances as you do them. Of course, you can get yourself into trouble if you rely explicitly on a piece of software and you use it wrong. In Schulzer's last round, in fact, both he and his opponent mistracked the same entrance, and it basically came down to which one of them got unlost first. It was a bit hard to watch.
Alright, Schulzer here is in Laser Bridge. Hitsu's gonna find this location very shortly thereafter. Schulzer, knowing that he has found the cane and the cape, knows that Laser Bridge items are fully in logic. Hitsu, on the other hand, does not have any invisibility item, including, and also does not have the mirror shields. Of course, I'm sure he's not going to care, and he's going to pick up these Laser Bridge items as well.
He's got the boots, which are the most useful actual solution to the problem.
Now, of course, the logic here for the Laser Bridge items is purely actually just for cross keys. And typically, advanced logic for non-entrance seeds, you actually do not need any type of invisibility item nor the mirror shield.
Yeah, and the reason for the change is not because the entrance programmers are lazy, though, I mean, it doesn't hurt probably, but also because you could just find this entrance as the first entrance in the game, and if without some logical gate, be forced to do Laser Bridge with 3 hearts nothing, which would suck.
Yeah, and also thank you to multiple people in chat reminding me that Hitsu in fact does have Cane of Burna, so he definitely knows that these things are in logic.
Reminding our trackers that he has Burna. And help who remind us. So in some ways that are hard to explain, the logic of entrance rando is easier than the logic of regular rando. And I'm going to say that, and then I'm not going to explain it because I don't think I can do it justice. But for me, at least, it's easier to think about. Schulzer, you should know that's there. Maybe just...
Schulzer's still not having the lamp, and is still going to have to do a lot of these turtle rooms in the dark.
I am confused as to why he did the things that he just did. So he found that entrance to the laser entrance to Turtle Rock earlier, when they were in the Mire area, and then he just walked through Turtle Rock to get there. I guess that might be faster than fluting over to the Mire area and mirroring twice, but seems weird.
Yeah, we see that with the fire rod in hand, Schulzer had a heck of a faster time to kill that room of the Pokey than Hitsu did when he had only the arrows to work with. Oh, and the Cane of Samari, of course. Alright, looks like Hitsu is going to make his way to Catfish, and he'll also see, we'll see in this case if he'll end up wanting to pick up that heart container that Catfish drops and make his way to the Waterfall Ferry location. And we did see early on Schulzer's side, because he's kind of already done all this, most notably when he went to visit Zora, Zora had an Ice Palace big key.
Which is another nice to have, but not... and logically required to have. I'm not even sure that's true anymore. But the runners won't treat it as anything more than basically a fetch quest.
Yeah, I don't think they've actually found Ice Palace so far. So, I mean, so when they eventually go in, I'm sure they'll be happy to have that Ice Palace big key.
Schulzer making the hardest thing, doing the hardest trick in Turtle Rock, which is pushing down on this room when you don't have the hook shot. And going the long way.
I think Hitsu did not check the side yet.
I don't believe he had Fire Rod when he was here.
Yeah,
and he doesn't have the mushroom in his inventory, so with high probability he hasn't checked it yet.
Yeah, I believe Schulzer had already found the potion shop, and he obviously knows where to turn the mushroom, so it could actually be a relatively fast check.
John Rock, I appreciate you running out in front of people correcting your correct spelling of Elo. Thumbs up from me.
Alright, well, Schulzer, having had the Hera Big Key, he is going to finish Hera.
So, Incoherent, if you want to make up the Electric Light Orchestra method of ranking things, and name it after ELO, that would be hilarious and stupid. Go ahead.
I happen to like ELO as well. Incoherent.
Yeah, I mean,
for the record.
Yes. I mean, it's a good choice, but they did not invent the system for deciding who's better at chess.
Oh my gosh, what a find for Schulzer. Following the Hera Big Key in Hera, he finds the hammer in the big chest.
Yeah. So that's one of the key puzzle pieces that they're still looking for, or that they were still looking for. The other potential big one is Hook, and sword number 2.
Not often in Crosskeys you get a sword go mode.
I mean, there's probably some keys yet that are gonna troll, but
Oh yeah. So with that pod big key in hand as his prize from the Tower of Hera, I'm sure I'm sure Schulzer definitely has clearing pod as one of the next things that he wants to do.
I mean, go clear crystal dungeons. Now he doesn't know it's crystal dungeon, but go clear potentially crystal dungeons is also a fine.
Schulzer trying to use the whirlpool here to save some overworld travel, but kind of gets bullied a little bit by the Zor, who happened to spawn right on top of that whirlpool.
I mean, boosts lead to running faster, which is important. One thing to note is that jeez, my brain exploded. They're still looking for Swamp Palace and Ice Palace, which somehow have been missing this whole time. So they might have to. For instance, we haven't seen the Turtle Rock Ledge yet. There's not a ton of entrances out there they haven't found.
Yeah, given kind of like how much or what equipment both runners have, they're making extremely logical plays. Both for their current amount, right? So Schulzer found the pod big key and the hammer. He's going to chase that and finish pod. Hitsu having Meyer access with the boots and all the requisite keys, including the lamp, is going to probably clear out Meyer here.
Yeah. The point I was making, or attempting to make, before my brain exploded on me, is that Schulzer finding the pendant in Hera, one is slightly unfortunate for Hitsu if he does a map check before doing Hera, finds the Hera map, and well, I don't want to do that, it's a pendant. Given that it blocks a crystal, and the fact that we know it's crystal is given by the fact that between the two runners we now have 3 pendants found, though neither one of the runners has full information yet. We know where all the crystals are.
It's almost as if we could see both runners' screens.
Yeah. Isn't it nice?
I certainly hope that at this stage, because Hitsu doesn't have, I think, too much left kind of to do, that he is just going to choose to clear a full clear Hera once he finds it, or once he goes back.
Yeah, I mean, once he goes back, he certainly does it. But the question is, how long does he put that off? And I feel like it could be. I mean, the bad case for Hitsu is if he finds a map for Hera.
And did we say something about knowledge is power? Maybe ignorance is bliss in this case is better.
I mean, knowledge is power, which is why when the low percents pay out, it's unfortunate, right? Like, every poker player has bad beat stories because they did everything right and their opponent had the 4% outer or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we did see on Schulzer's side, or rather, we did not see him traverse through Pod Dark Basement because he doesn't have the lamp. Of course, as we said before, lamp is merely a suggestion, and having the fire rod there in order to light the turtle's room makes that a lot easier. Alright, we have found a lot of GT small keys. We have not found GT yet, but I'm sure once they find it, they'll be more than happy to dip the basement.
So, hi boss. Somebody in here was giving us static. We told them to go away.
Alright, crystal number 2 for Schulzer.
Something's not right on our tracker. Because Hitsu did desert back. That's what's wrong.
Yes, you're correct. Hitsu did clear the backup desert, so he should have another crystal.
Yes, and he should not have mini Moldorm or mega Moldorm, full size Moldorm.
Mega Moldorm. Yeah, actually, this is interesting, right? Because it's mini Moldorm in Moldorm, and then you have Helmasaurs and Helmasaur King. It's like, come on, like these enemies should be consistent, right?
It would certainly make me say less stupid things. So I can get on this train. Schultzer's now off to go do the back of Meyer. Fighter Sword Moth is not anybody's idea of a good time, but it might be the least bad time he has left.
He does have the hammer and he does have the fire rod with half magic. Hopefully this should be okay for him.
I mean, the hammer does make a lot of difference. In terms of, it's a lot more damage to the fighter sword, even if it's awkward as heck. And saving a fire rod shot there by bonking the Gibdo into the spikes is a nice way to try to save fire rod shots. So it looks like we're just getting mono hammer moth, at least to begin with.
Yeah, dual boss fights on both sides. Hitsu tearing through Vitreous with his silver arrows, getting a blue rupee for his trouble, and more importantly, he has his third crystal.
Second crystal. I hope. Unless our trackers are lying to me again, which they might be. So that's 3 crystals for Schulzer and 2 crystals for Hitsu.
Oh, you're right. Yes, you are absolutely right.
Which aren't the same crystals at all, by the way. Like, the ones Hitsu has, the ones that Schulzer have are not the same ones. Which goes some way to explaining how divergent this seed is. These runners have really diverged. And at this point, at least to me, it's not clear which one of them is ahead, right? Hitsu has had these boots for a long time, but Schulzer had the Moon Pearl for a long time earlier. Schulzer is now off to go do the front and back of Escape, presumably, which will get him his boots, which is a nice find.
Yeah,
and sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say that. Meanwhile, Hitsu, is going to check the Skull Woods entrance with his fire rod. He's going to find Thieves Town, and is most likely also going to clear it. Does not have the hammer, but also Schulzer, when he came here, did not have the hammer. Nor, I guess, is the small key for Thieves Town. So both runners are going to leave the big chest behind.
So what can we hope for there to be there to troll the heck out of them? No, that's not.
I mean, they do have a pretty good loadout, right? I mean, like, they have the boots, they have the flute, they have flippers, they have the Moon Pearl, they have the mirror.
Incoherent, making the kind of comment that I would like to make on commentary, but I feel like it'd be a bit bold. In that Schultzer's doing the thing, maybe. But why is he doing now? Like he, according to our tracker, knows where Desert Back is. He could be doing that. Dang it! I started Trez started the fight about what's Rando again. Oh well, carry on.
Does it still count as a god pixel if you just kind of kick through that hallway? On his
Yes,
side?
cheat to win. If the game gives you tools and you use them appropriately, more power to you. Hitsuyan is still pathetically running around without a sword, like sticking out his little hand every time he dashes. He's sad and pathetic.
Yeah, certainly Schulzer, after finding the sword in the vanilla big key location in Pod, he has trying to definitely use that sword to gain more access. And most notably, that sword ended up letting him complete Skullwoods, which is a crystal that Hitsu does not currently have.
I'm kind of cheering for Hitsu to find both hammer and hook before any swords. 2 swords for go mode. Sign me up.
So the hammer is certainly very accessible for Hitsu. He gets to go back to Hera and pick it up from the big chest.
So now on 6 pod smalls and no pod big. That'll be. I mean, there's some chance he does Hera first, but.
Yeah, I mean, so the hammer and the pod big key were both found in Hera. So, assuming he does do Hera first, he will be all set for pod.
Neither there with only a double dip, which actually for Entrance Rando is pretty good. And now we get to see Hitsu do Samaria Blind, which was an option for Schulzer earlier, but he chose to do Burn a Blind. So everybody think back to when that happened and see if Hitsu does better.
Looks like even so far, I believe Schulzer got hit once.
Schulzer also let Blind get to the bottom, which is time consuming, but so does Hitsu, so. It felt about even. I feel like the Samaria play certainly took more effort. Burn a Blind is.
Yeah, I'm wondering if his
real easy.
Yeah, yeah. I'm wondering if Schulzer. I wonder if Hitsu actually remembered he has Burna, because at least it would have given him even a little break too.
And sadly, Hitsuyan mirroring just by the pedestal, but they don't have book. A bit sad. He would have gone and read it. Told us something if nothing else. And here we are on the low weapon Hera climb.
I'm very happy to see Hitsu here in Hera. He will be able to pick up his hammer and the pod big key. I don't remember if Schulzer ended up doing the basement.
I don't believe he did. Given how convenient Hera is, I'm kind of surprised to see Hitsu do this. Right? It's just in Kakariko. You can come back here anytime with the flute.
I can't actually remember if Hitsu ended up picking up anything notable in Mire, but certainly, given that both runners are still missing quite a bit of stuff, Schulzer's just going to full clear this dungeon.
They're not that far away, right? So Turtle Rock Big Key, sword, 2 dungeons that are missing for no apparent reason. Hookshot. And, those dungeons might be behind... No, I think they should have all entrances available to them now, right? Other than Ganon's Tower.
Yeah, as chat is helpfully observing, or maybe not as helpfully observing, because we want ignorance, we see that Hitsu has actually decided to not climb Hera and just do the basement.
Yeah, which, Zelda rightly pointing out is a reasonable choice in Hitsuyan's mind, because he doesn't actually have any way to kill the Moldorm King.
Yeah, if only he knew that there was a hammer in the big chest, and which, as a convenience sentiment, the game has decided to give you a weapon to, right before you need it.
Also, maybe someday they will have they will find Ganon's Tower. So, in addition to the two dungeons they need crystals to beat, they haven't found GT either, which is presumably where all the swords are hiding out.
Swords can also be on tablets. They haven't found the book yet either.
It's true. Here's where I'm going to do some tricky maths. There are 27 items in Ganon's Tower, and there are 2 items on tablets.
What are you implying about 27 and 2?
No comment. I leave that as an exercise to the reader.
Also, of course, with a sword, with trying to get something off the tablet, you also need an additional sword. So you can read with the book that maybe there's a sword locked there, but you also need another sword to get the sword.
Yeah, you need at least the first one. So I feel like Hitsu is put off going back to Pod despite the 6 keys because he doesn't have the hammer or the big key. I feel like he's got to get back there sooner or later to get his first sword. Schulzer forgetting just how, probably not forgetting, but overdoing it with the silver arrows for Vitreous, which, man, that fight is nice with silvers. It's just so... Vitreous is such a jerk that when he's actually easy, it's nice.
Yeah, there's probably a reason why silver arrows are logged behind Vitreous Crystal in the vanilla game.
So Useless Fairy is so named because it's the only drop down with nothing in it, and so if you're tricking drops, it's useless. Some people call it naughtier things. Yeah, it's the other thing that I call it is the hula hand drop because.
That is indeed where you have to go if you want to hula hand, or at least the easy way.
Yeah, it's the easy way. There certainly are other setups, including reasonably complicated ones. But if you don't have the flippers, the setup at Useless Fairy is completely free. So. Yeah, and as Incoherent is sort of implying, Useless Fairy is one of the entrances that you get to learn about if you ever want to run entrance rando, because you'll never see it any other time.
Yeah, we just see on Hitsu's side, he's back into a rock, front side. I think he had a bit of a muscle memory, trying to do right side first. Of course, he just wants to do he wants to try left side first, but he just really wants the right side of Turtle Rock here.
Welcome, Nordic Randomizer Raiders. we're about an hour and a half into a Crosskeys race here. Between Hitsuyan and Schulzer, both of whom are German, in the losers bracket of the Crosskeys tournament. This is game 1 of 3, and this race is wildly divergent at the moment. So one of them is probably winning, and we'll let you know in about half an hour.
Hopefully it'll be half an hour.
Yeah. Well, I hope in half an hour we can let them know who's winning.
Alright, yeah, right, and we actually see on his side, he is going to immediately follow that mushroom, turn it in. We did not see this on Schulzer's side, I believe.
Presumably they, presumably Hitsu would like to have, a sword at the potion shop.
Hour and a half in?
Yeah.
He has a key to Eastern. Okay, that is a crystal that. No, sorry, that is a dungeon we can clear.
Dungeon we can clear. That's 2 items, and 3 items, because there's one on the green pendant as well.
We have not found Sahashla, as far as I know.
So one of them is almost certainly winning, John, but and it's probably Hitsu, but
Well, right. This is really very questionable because like that sword that Schulzer has seems to be making quite the difference. Just in terms of what these runners are willing to do, because Schulzer ended up going back to Pod and getting the sword out of the vanilla big key location. That sword enabled him basically to do the back of Skull Woods. And kind of clear more crystals. Hitsu is not kind of able to get some of these things without that sword. So it looks like he just really wants that sword first.
Yeah, I think that Schulzer... Nope. Sorry, Hitsuyan was off to go get his sword, but he ran the opposite direction of the way I thought he was doing. So, Hitsuyan hasn't found a sword yet in 90 minutes. Schulzer's only found 1. Oh, and Schulzer has found Lamp, which is a good find.
Yeah, it's in Hammercraig's location. Also something that Hitsu can't do because in this case, both the hammer and the pod Biki were in pendant Hera. Hitsu decided just to try the basement and go do something else. Man, alright, so sword locking sword.
Yep. Yeah, there's not a...
Probably the big turning point will be if and when Hitsu goes back to Hera and completes it. He just has to kind of accept that he is going to get more checks in Hera without a potential weapon to be able to kill Moldorn.
I mean, either Hera or Pod. I think if he dips Pod for and finds the sword, that'll lead him to Hera, and vice versa, right?
Yeah,
so
that's true. That's a very good point. I'm sure he'll be slightly annoyed if he chooses Pod before Hera, but at least you will. Oh, okay. And now we have a Castle Tower key to get one more check in Castle Tower.
Yay! At least we know that that we don't need to do Aga today because we have ruled out all of the corner cases that would require it. Schulzer, speaking of which, found Swamp and Hammerpegs, and is now making this slightly miserable no hookshot Swamp dip, which I think is entirely correct. It's just annoying.
Has Schulzer visited the back of the desert?
He's visited it. It was in a shopping mall, I believe. And so it's not the easiest place to get back to.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, because I guess I was just wondering, at some point, like before, after he ended up picking up, I guess I can't remember what he ended up picking up, but he had desert completion open to him, but he instead chose to go visit Hyrule Castle.
Yep.
Alright, Hitsu picking up his green pendant with a heart container on Armas.
So apparently we're not having 2 swords in GT because Schulzer has found 2 swords in Swamp behind the hammer, which is a thing. I mean, I guess it would be behind the hammer anyway, but
He's giving us a new check here for the backup bumper cave.
so there's still places that this can go that are interesting. So this is, I think this is a totally reasonable check. I mean, going right first is so rarely correct, you might as well do it. And there's Ice Palace. Sorry, the connector led to one of the few interesting places left, which is Turtle Rock Bridge, or ledge. And that ledge had on it Ice Palace.
Funny place for an ice palace on Death Mountain there.
Yeah, which means that Schulzer is going to have to go connector diving at some point, because the only way to get here is that connector.
Schulzer did end up picking up Smoky at Thieves Town. I'm not sure if he wants to go back and make that last check there.
Oh, it's so far away. So
there seems to be so many things that are so far away.
I mean, but it's extra so far. Like the Skullwoods 3 is got to be one of the least convenient entrances in the entire game. And then you have to go all the way through Thieves Town? Like, ugh.
Yeah, twice. Or at least he has the boost this time if he wants to go around the second time. As Zelda is pointing out, Hitsu is trying to is hoping certainly to find some progression here, but not having the hammer or a sword or a hook shot doesn't feel super great to be here.
He does have a cane, so at least he can do Icebreaker, maybe. There we go. Woo, $5.
And I believe he has the big key, so he should be able to get the big chest, assuming he can get there.
I appreciate that Icebreaker and then escape route right there. Schulzer finding Bumper Cave and choosing not to follow it yet. Netar Icebreaker, which is this trick that he's about to go do again, is super out of logic. But doesn't necessarily take him to anywhere that's out of logic. Hitsu now on his 6th Icebreaker attempt, 2 of which were clean and the other 4 which weren't.
This is something that's really nice to be able to have half magic here.
That trick is called Icebreaker because you go through a wall in Ice Palace. And somebody thought it was cute.
Yeah, and pretty much just breaks the dungeon. Schulzer, having the hammer, will be able to make a few more checks. Hitsu will not be able to. Alright, a few more checks here left for Hitsu.
Sorry, I'm too busy laughing at chat to be a useful commentator. I apologize, Clear Mouse.
Oh, no, that's certainly no worries here. If Schulzer knows his bomb jumps...
There's the thing! Hitsu found the thing!
Thank you, Hitsu, for not letting me finish my sentence, because I said, because they don't have the hook shot, if he knows his bomb jumps across the Ice Palace pits, he can actually get to Cold Stare, but he will not need to be able to do that on Schulzer's side. He will just be able to, once pick up the hook shot, he can just go straight to Cold Stare. Hitsu unfortunately does not have the hammer, so he will have to come back.
Yeah.
Finding the book on Schulzer's side as well.
And Schulzer's here. And that's go mode. No, Turtle Rock Big Key. Turtle Rock Big Key. Oh no, Pendant Turtle Rock. Never mind. Yep. So when Schulzer gets there, that's everything. That's all she wrote. So, only 15 minutes after the previous comment, I think Schulzer's winning.
Hitsu, very understandably, is going to follow that hookshot into Hookshot Cave. There are 4 more items that he can get. Oh, 3 more items. Sorry, he already got the first one.
Yeah. Chat, get your bets in on whether or not Hitsu gets a sword before Schulzer wins. Oh, Hitsuyan.
That Bari, I mean, has caused so much trouble for so many runners. That was a sad hookshot cave.
Yeah. Well, I mean, at this point, it's sort of gotta be.
I was really hoping that, you know, as you were posturing earlier, that hopefully Hitsu had been able to find a sword that would certainly have geared him towards the right direction.
Yeah. The 2 swords in Swamp are not helping Hitsuyan's luck. Right. This isn't one of those seeds where he gets bailed out by a sword or the thing. His little brother, also the thing. Ratuitux. I'm going to assume that I've assembled those letters in the correct order. You can see which entrances he has found by the filled-in, the darkened bosses. Is found the dungeon, and then bright bosses is beat the dungeon. So you can see that he's found all of the crystal dungeons. Hasn't found GT, because heck that thing. Oh! Hitsu's gonna get a sword!
Oh my gosh, Hitsu! I'm so excited. Thank you for picking up that sword. I wonder if he's gonna go climb Hera.
What a thing. Rocco, I think that's newish. I think this tournament, the tracking of the dungeon finds on the tracker, but it's super helpful. Assuming that the trackers, who are generally awesome, remember to click the buttons. Oh, neat. And sword in hand, back of Skullwoods is now in logic.
Yeah, certainly. Because now he has back of Skullwoods, as you said, access to it. Yeah, I'm sure he just it's very understandable. He just made a beeline for it.
I mean, this is the thing that the first sword locks the most, in some reasonable sense.
Yeah, and not having a permanent weapon, or most notably some weapon to be able to kill Moldorm, I think is something also that has detracted or dissuaded Hitsu from climbing Hera.
Yep. I mean, his Hitsu might not be that far behind in minutes, but I think his win probability is, like, leave the game early territory if this was a football game.
Hitsu, unfortunately, not having the hammer and not that much magic, actually had to rely on Fighter Sword to kill Moth.
Yeah. Schulzer doing Bomb Diver down there, which is nice and clean. Alpha Omega Schulzer has all of the things. Hitsu does not have all of the things. So, Schulzer is winning. Schulzer has to run to the end of this dungeon, beat this boss, run to the end of Desert, beat that boss, and then do Ganon. So.
I'm happy to see Hitsu here in Hera. He will pick up his hammer, and hopefully he'll continue, kill Moldorm, and get the pod big key.
This Hera pod setup is apparently trolling Hitsu. This is a lot of boss buffers. For those that aren't familiar, there's been some newish people in chat tonight. That's a trick called Hera pot. If you sort of clip into the edge of the pot, you can then use the hook shot to get to the middle of the pot. You then look left, or doom occurs, and then if you fall into the pot, you follow down as if you were falling down from up here.
Hitsu acknowledging that the hammer was in fact in Hera's big chest.
Yeah, that's not a nice thing.
I mean, I'm certainly still glad to see that he is continuing, and he's going to just click her and get his pod big key.
He's not. Yeah, well, both that he's continuing up, and that he's not just. I mean, to some extent, you could consider dot forfeiting there. Except I know that Hitsu was watching Schulzer's last round, where Schulzer just got lost. So there's his win probability is slightly higher than against people that. Are known to be able to use a tracker.
It's certainly not unreasonable, though, to not want to climb Hera if you don't think that you can clear it.
Oh, yeah. No, yes. Absolutely.
It's kind of interesting, though, that in this case, so maybe this is fortune for Schulzer, right? Because he got lost and couldn't find GT anywhere in this last seed, and now this seed doesn't need GT, so he just avoided that problem by not having it need to be required.
Yeah, it's nice when those 27 items are nothing. Given that they're nothing, the Lynn's supposition that it's at GT, it's vanilla, is pretty good. Because otherwise you would expect there to be sort of something useful in GT in most cases, right? Roughly more than 10% of the items in the game are in there. The odds that one of those things is useful is pretty high. Sometimes it's 27 items is trash, but so Aga 2, all of the beating Aga 2 does is open the crack in the pyramid, which is sometimes absolutely required, either because Ganon is there, because there's good stuff there, but it's not required to make Ganon vulnerable. Which is the settings that used to be called crystals in Entrance Rando before they invented it for Item Rando and called it Fast Ganon.
Yeah, certainly in this case, because we had the fire rod, actually we had the lamps, we didn't have to do dark rooms, and we found out Hyrule Castle small key, we could have made our way all the way to the back of this gate to get the boots. I don't know actually if they were required. I'm sure there was at least one entrance that required boots, right?
Yes. But I think one might be the number. But on the other hand, everybody likes running fast, so. And here's Ganon.
Yeah, certainly, even if boots aren't required to logically beat the seed, you always want boots to move fast. Alright, Hitsu is back in Ice Palace a second time.
If you are rolling your own Crosskeys key, you can make Aga 2 required if you want. Nobody does. Is this a nice, clean Ganon fight? Sure looks like it. Seryu, there's a few places we haven't checked. We haven't checked Bumper Upper, we haven't checked GT, and we haven't checked Total Rock Main. Sorry, Natar, I forget that you're not a Link to the Past guy. The thing at the top of Ganon's Tower is called Aghanim. Is Aghanim 2, because you fight him twice during the game. They checked my entrance, Terry. It was single item cave. GG's to Schulzer, who has, assuming he doesn't fall down the bridge, he would still win. Has
He would
defeated.
probably need to fall like 50 times for Hitsu to be able to catch up. Maybe
Yeah,
not 50.
it's a lot. Schulzer has finished in first place with a time of 3:50. GG's to him. Our lovely restreamer will presumably be hassling him for an interview in a moment.
Looks like Hitsu has forfeited, or at least is pausing right before the beginning of Ice Palace.
I feel like Hitsu has no interest in the rest of this, but maybe he's more of a trooper than than I expect. Alpha Omega, they found it 2 hours ago. The drop downs are linked to the nearest entrance, and so, and in fact, the drop downs are generally good, and so they will tend to get checked really quickly. Welcome.
GG.
GG. Well, I mean, that's what we're supposed to say to you. Good game, Schulzer.
Good.
What'd you think?
Oh, this was a really, really hard Crosskeys to play. There was so much options all the time with early flute, early glove, early mids even.
Yeah.
This could have gone in each direction.
Yeah, I mean, you had access to what, like almost all of the entrances 20 minutes into the race.
Yeah, and then the hammer was like really late for me. I don't know if Hitsu got it for me or after me.
No, Hitsu just got it like 3 minutes ago.
Oh my god!
And he got his first sword about 2 minutes before that. So I think it was 140 something. Hitsu got his first sword. So
I guess he found it in pod.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He never got to the swamp ones before he forfeited. And the fourth one never turned up. So.
Did he find Ice Palace, or was it close? I have no idea.
He found Ice Palace about 90 seconds before you did. He probably has another 10 minutes or more in this seed. So you're way ahead, but you weren't obviously way ahead until you found Ice Palace.
Yeah, I was going through like each connector. I didn't wanted to go back to pod because I found one pod smoky after another, and I wanted, please, one connector, bring me to Bumper Cave so I can check pod, but it never happened. And then I collected more and more pod smokies and finally got to pod to get my first sword.
Yeah, that was when however many I think you had 5, and I think all 6 of them were available pod smalls. That early in the game, like something's got to be in there.
Yeah, I think I got 5 after getting into the second time, and the 6th one was in the Dark Bird somewhere. I got it.
Yeah. So I wanted to ask you about something that happened really early in the seed. How about the cage in the basement of Tower of Hera?
Yeah, that's so dumb. I was like, no, I don't want to solve and quit. I need to activate my flute. And then, how do I activate the switch? Okay, I cannot kill it. I cannot throw the boomerang around the soul dome. Just place the bomb. I remember.
It was slightly unfortunate, self-inflicted jailing right there. You found a whole bunch of connectors. You were like, I'm off to activate my flute. And then you were like, ooh, a connector. Ooh, a shining dungeon. Ooh, a connector. No, I'm going to activate my flute. You also got lucky in your choice of connectors there, in that you immediately went to Super Bunny instead of to Paradox. Was there a reason for that, or? I
think I had no arrows at this point, so I had like no good way to keep me alive in Paradox, and I felt like I would die if I go in there right now. And Also, I got mirror that Lily has for Super Bunny Cave, and yeah, it's just a connector.
Yeah, that's fair. Hitsu, I think, unfortunately for him, found the arrows, and so did Paradox, and then left the Wind Pearl behind for a long time. So
Yeah, but I don't think I would have done it immediately after. Like, I guess
Yeah.
I don't remember. Like, one got me to the Nightbird shopping mall, but I don't remember where the second one went.
yeah, well, the issue with I mean, the problem, the quote unquote problem for Hitsuyan there is that he had the flute and the mitts and the bow and the whatever the heck else. You guys got like everything in Sphere Zero, right? And so he had just like lots of places to go and so he didn't actually get back to Super Bunny for ages. In fact, he went and did Meyer area before he did Super Bunny Cave, for instance, which is an option you can make. Clear Mouse, you got any interesting questions for our winner?
Yeah, Schulzer. First, GG's. On finishing the save actually relatively quickly. I guess I was curious. So when you found Hera, and so what I guess made you want to climb at that point?
Because I found the Heather big key and I never checked the map, so I didn't even know it was a defendant at this point, which I don't even care about at all. And I had a weapon to kill Mordom. It was a dungeon that I can complete, so I just went for it.
Yeah.
Certainly, that doesn't seem to be a very major difference, right? Because I think once you ended up getting that sword, and then you could clear Pod, you could go clear Skull. Certainly just kind of, I think that's at that point just kind of extended your lead.
Yeah, I think the Desert Ensign sped me away a long time from the TR, which was a pod which gave me the Tough Heather Picky, if I'm not mistaken. So I felt really late for that hammer.
Yeah, Hitsuyan, it was tempting because Hitsu didn't find the sword, right? Frankly, the fighter sword was the game-breaking item that won you that race, which is a strange thing to say, but
Obviously.
I think in this case was true, right? Because it unlocked Skullwood's back, which unlocked something, I forget exactly what, and it incentivized the Tower of Hera climb, because climbing Tower of Hera without any items is miserable.
Heather was loaded, it was a big key for Pod and the hammer, I guess.
Yeah.
I think. Yeah, but Skyward's Sport hadn't any item, it was just existed. It just had a fire dot in the back entrance, but you could get it, obviously, by not killing the boss.
It was interesting. Also, Fire Rod in Skullwood's back is a nice entrance rando special.
I still wonder where the GT is. I never found it.
Yeah, so the speculation in chat, given that you guys, for instance, have 6 pod smalls and assorted other things, is vanilla. Just because otherwise you'd expect there to be something in there, especially given that you guys have every entrance in the game otherwise. So.
I mean, I can take it in 1 minute because the Darkman connector spits me out at Darkest Mountain. So I will do some fan service. Yeah, but that was really a seed. I never had that early flute, but that was so interesting to loud. But I felt like I did some of that checks. I did some checks there, and it get on and on and on, and he didn't find any weapon, and no sword, no hammer, no dungeon to complete until 1.5 hours.
Yeah, no, you guys had all of the access and none of the weapons for such a long time. Here we go.
GT is
fanfare.
not vanilla. There's only Sasha in there hanging out.
I mean, that's another thing you didn't find that's sort of surprising. And I mean, there's still 3 or 4 entrances left. They're all the awkward ones, so we're not gonna make you run around. Do you and Hitsuyan have the next race scheduled?
Not yet. I think it will be somewhere around next week.
Okay. We look forward to it. Sorry, I'm doing all the talking again. Clear mouse.
Oh no, I think you're doing great. Any thoughts about Game 2, Schulzer?
Yeah, it was linear. I think it was a linear hard race. Hitsu is still a strong opponent. It's for me the quote-unquote German final of this tournament because Hitsu is Dutch or German-ish, and we are both the last Germans. So let's see who can kick the last German out.
I felt bad that I wasn't doing commentary off Deutsch, but I don't think I can keep it up for 2 hours.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think Hitsu actually in a earlier losers bracket matchup defeated Illis. So this is Hitsu's second, or at least.
He also played Relin, who I think is also German.
Yes.
Oh, that's right. You're man. Hitsu's knocked out so many Germans. Better watch out, Schulzer. But you do have a game up on him, so
yep.
It's really.
Yeah, but it can turn around, like we saw in my match against Wonder Pumpkin. We will see.
Yeah. The
Crosskeys can do a lot of things.
Yeah. All right. We'll wish you luck, and hopefully Delilah, who's our restreamer today, has something to throw us to. I believe there's another race coming up at 8 p.m. Eastern.
That actually got postponed, I believe.
Well, it got postponed.
Somebody doesn't have power. I don't know who, but somebody lost power in the storm yesterday. I'm sure Trap knows who. Yeah, so I'm gonna throw you guys over to ZSR2, and they are doing Wind Waker Rando. They're almost done, but there's still a bunch of runners running. So I'm gonna do that. Let's see what else is coming up. A bunch of, it's tomorrow's Friday. I think there's Majora's Mask Rando, and then obviously the Ocarina of Time Randos, and everything that usually happens all over the weekend. But thanks you guys for joining us, and this is a speed run. We are ZeldaSpeedRuns, and see you guys again another time. Thanks.
It's a speedrun.